Well, Country Garden has missed its final deadline for the coupon payment on a dollar bond, according to three creditors, making what was once China's biggest developer by the sales the latest casualty of the country's property sector crisis. Bondholders told the Financial Times that they had not received an interest payment due at midnight U.S. Eastern Time on Tuesday for a $500 million Country Garden bond maturing in September 2025. The developer was due to make a $15.4 million coupon repayment this week. Well, for more on this story, let's cross to our Lagos studios, where we are joined by Efosa Aluyi. He's the head of investments, Sankore Global Investments. Thank you so much for joining us on Global Business Report. All right, let's begin.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Let's begin with the markets. What do you make of the stock's performance, and how will this impact investment decisions?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing in the U.S. markets especially is, a lot of uncertainty essentially playing out there. Like you mentioned, all three indices were down yesterday, essentially down to their lowest points in about a month. Basically under pressure from what we're seeing, in the treasury space. We're seeing, treasury yields, rise quite strongly over the last couple of weeks. The 10-year yesterday rose to the 4.9% mark. That's the highest since 2007. Also, the rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage rose to about 8%. That's the highest we've seen since the year 2000. So this whole rhetoric around, higher for longer, essentially emphasizing the need for the Fed to keep interest rates higher for much longer than market has anticipated, is creating all sorts of, uncertainty within the markets. I mean, the Fed had alluded to the fact that, they're not going to carry out any more hikes, seeing as the market seems to be doing the heavy lifting for them. And that is creating, a lot of uncertainty on risk assets, so that has been the major challenge. If you even look at the Treasury complex right now, a lot of other factors are also contributing to what you're seeing. We're seeing record deficits in the U.S. Deficit for the fiscal year 2024 is expected to be around $2 trillion. So which implements that, the U.S. Treasury Department is going to sell significantly more treasuries than it sold in the recent past. Also, the Federal Reserve is, if you recall, is unwinding its balance sheet. What that's implementing is that it's selling U.S. treasuries. So all of these things are putting pressure and upward pressure on yields, and that is creating a lot of uncertainty within the risk, complex. We're certainly going to be dealing with this uncertainty, for some time to come. I mean, there are a number of schools of thoughts or opinions around what's going to happen, whether we're going to have a hard landing, a soft landing, or maybe no landing at all. So the situation remains one that is, highly uncertain, U.S. markets right now.
Well, we're beginning to see virtual currency becoming a thing. Now, the challenges, I don't know if you would like to tell us what challenges you think the ECB will face in trying to launch the digital euro, and how might this initiative impact the European financial landscape?
Well, and that's a really good question, because, the question really has been posed to say, look, what difference is this going to make? How is this going to be different from regular online payments? But what the ECB is essentially saying is that from November 1st, they want to carry out, if you will, like a 2-year trial where they're basically going to set out the rules, the governance, choose private sector partners, and roll it out, kind of test it for 2 years. After that, the Governing Council would decide if it would go ahead with it. Suffice it to mention that within the G7 bloc, it's just the ECB that's really pushing ahead, with this, digital currency rollout. I mean, the truth of the matter is that, payments have largely become digital. Whether or not you then need a currency, to back that, becomes a bit of a concern, really. This initiative has largely been led by the private sector when it comes to payments, really. I guess it's a situation where the government wants to kind of step in, to ensure that there's a bit of control, there is regulation where it is needed, and all of that. It really does remain to be seen what happens with this, experiment that the ECB is, carrying out.
From the story we heard earlier, Netflix customers in US, UK, and France may likely would have to pay more. How do you think, or how do you think Netflix has been able to manage to maintain a growth in subscribers and profitability despite the increase in prices? I mean, increasing prices at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the greatest points or strategies that Netflix has employed is, the sourcing of, local content that essentially resonates, with the local consumers or the local viewers. I think that's one thing that Netflix has been able to do, and a lot of its, premium content are essentially Netflix originals. So that has also helped. We've also seen Netflix essentially license, content that had been hit for years, and then it brought that back onto the network. So I think that very strong local robust offering has been a very a strong winning point for Netflix, hence the inelasticity of consumers to even the price increase that we have seen, such that consumers subscribers have grown quite strongly. 9 million were added this quarter against 6 million that was expected. Netflix expects the growth for next quarter to be just as strong. It currently has about 247 million subscribers globally. Over 70% of that right now is outside of the US. So we're seeing really strong growth in Europe, in the Middle East, and also in Africa. And these are areas where you have, content that resonates with the local audience that Netflix is really plugging into. And I think that's one of the strongest winning strategies that it's been able to implement, over the last quarter.
All right, so let me just pick your head now on what it seems. It seems like the woes of country garden is not ending anytime soon. Media reports claim that the property giant missed on another dollar bond payment and is selling down its Australian project. What do you make of this?
I mean, it's a reflection of the, property sector woes or challenges in China, which, really just continues to unfold. I mean, the whole situation with Evergrande is, well documented. So it isn't an exception what, Country Garden is going through. They've got offshore bonds worth about $11 billion. A payment was missed about a month ago. Like you highlighted earlier, the deadline for that payment, which is a 30-day grace period, has expired, and there isn't any word of any payment. So clearly, Country Garden has defaulted on that payment, and there certainly has to be some sort of restructuring that will happen. We're also seeing it trying to scramble to sell assets in Australia. I mean, at this stage, it's basically trying to, raise cash from wherever it can to salvage the situation. It is just a reflection of the difficult and challenging situation, in the Chinese, property market or the Chinese property sector, which accounts for anywhere between 25 and 30% of the country's GDP. So that really is the challenge. Until we see some solution or support in that area, the woes of Evergrande really and Country Garden as well is likely to continue. I mean, the best scenario here for credit holders would be some sort of restructuring. Again, the terms, would be what would determine how fair or how good that would be. But like I said earlier, this is just a reflection of the property situation in China.
All right, thank you so much for your insight. Really appreciate you. Efosa Aluyi, Head of Investments, Sankore Global Investment in our Lagos studios. You are